Okay, so we have imported audio just as a file, but we haven't really talked about what audio means inside of After Effects. So that's what we're going to spend our time right now going over. A couple of things. Audio is not After Effects' strong point. After Effects is a motion graphics program. It's intended for visuals, and it's awesome at it. It does allow you to bring audio in and work with audio. And that's important as motion graphic artists, animators, and designers. Often our work is cued by rhythmic changes or key moments in audio, a voiceover, sound effects, explosions, and whatever, So it's really important for us to be able to work with audio and use it to our advantage. However, you wouldn't want to spend any time in After Effects mixing audio, editing audio, doing any sort of effects with your audio. You can't record audio in After Effects. So that's where we save that heavy work for programs that are intended for audio. So if we're staying in the Adobe suite of things, Adobe has Audition. And Audition is a really great multi-track sequencing program. I don't know, maybe I just used sequencing wrong. Well, it's an audio program, but you could use, anything from, what else is there? There's a lot of Pro Tools, there's Logic, and, a lot of free stuff out there that you could get your hands on. I'm sure, right now, a lot of you students are like, well, I use this, and, or I've heard about all these other programs. Yes, they're all out there. You get the point. After Effects is not it. So an average workflow would be one in which you prepare your audio in a program meant for audio, mix it down, or just at least get it to a rough place if you still need time to work on it while graphics are happening. And so then you could bring that in as a sort of a finished file or a work in progress file, and then just use that to kind of rough out your animation and the changes and the movements and things like that. And then you could even go back afterwards to that audio program and then finish it, sweeten it up, add a few little things, and really kind of mix it and get it to where the sweet spot is. Sometimes you even might animate first and then take that finished animation into an audio program and then create the score, the sound effects, some voiceovers, dialogue, whatever, after you've finished your motion graphic or animation work. So, two different kind of ways to approach it. Right now what we're going to do is we're just going to bring in just a straight up audio file, look at its properties, and then get us set up for how we might be able to actually animate and edit to it. That'll be in the next video. So this one's going to be pretty refined to just a few certain things. Okay, let's have a look. I need my glasses. So After Effects supports a good couple handfuls of audio types, and I have them all listed here. So anything that you see in this list is going to be accepted by After Effects. I would say that the best ones to use, in my experience, would be an AAC file, maybe an M4A, an MP3. Those are okay. Wave files are really good. You just want a format that isn't going to compress your sound too much if you're going to actually be using that sound in your final output. So AAC is good. The Wave is good. MP3, M4A start to compress it a bit. The AIF file is generally an uncompressed file, and they are usually massive. They're huge. So I try to stay away from those if I can, but there are definitely times where it's what you have to use, maybe because of some requirements on a collaborative project or something like that. Generally, I just get a pared down version, like an AAC or something like that, and use it just while I work, and then later on, once I'm done, then I'll put it to the final music or sound. So that being said, I'm just going to get rid of those files because I don't need them. Delete. And I'll just change my composition background color to something more pleasant. I don't know why I've been sort of jamming on this kind of off-white color lately, but that's just where I'm at right now. I have these little squares that I've put into this thing just to potentially use down the road for animating to the audio. So just don't even worry about those right now. I will have them for you in a file that you can use beside me while we do this. I'm going to import my audio. So same import process as we went over before. Classes, online, 302, UMBox, audio. I have two. Which one do I want to use? Let me use the Is It Hip Hop? I don't know. Is it? So this is a file that I got off of the internet from a web service that I use called Envato. And Envato, bam, is this site. And they have video and music, sound effects, photos and graphics and stuff like that. You just have to subscribe. So I'm a subscriber because that's how I roll sometimes. It's really handy. Now, okay, so I've imported my audio. What do? I can do a couple of things. I can either just drag it right into my comp, which isn't really generally the way that we roll with audio, unless like the audio was made specifically for your project and you have to make something like that happen, music video or something like that. Right now, I just want a piece of this audio, and I think it's really important for us to go through that process. So if I double click on my audio file, it opens it up in a footage window, just like what would happen if you double clicked on a layer in your composition. It opens it up in a footage window. Now it's just audio. Obviously there's nothing to be seen because it just doesn't have a visual component to it. It's just audio. I do have a timeline here at the bottom of this though. So if I were to hit play, spacebar, you can hear it. It's playing. Yeah, I suppose that's hip hop. So that's all I get. I don't get any waveform in here, and that's one thing that kind of drives me batty. Adobe people, if you're listening, be a great place just to have a waveform. You do it in Premiere and you do it in Audition. It wouldn't be that hard. You even draw the waveform in the timeline, as you'll see here in a second. But, so you just kind of have to eyeball it. I know that my composition is only 5 seconds long. So, whoops, see how I just clicked on my composition and that footage window went away? No big deal, it's just right here on the tab up there. So I just need to click on that and bring it back. So I could just say, I want the first 10 seconds of it, which is, I'm just gonna listen to it. I mean, obviously I could scrub there if I wanted to. Fine. Roughly 10 seconds. I can see that I'm at 10:24, so I'll just scroll back. It's 10:01, no big deal. Now I have to tell After Effects which part of this audio I want. Since I'm going from the beginning to now, I don't need to do anything to the front, which would be the in point. Just like we were talking about in and out points for our layers in the composition, you can do in and out points for your audio. So my in point is 0 in my time code. And now I've got my playhead here at 10 seconds and 1 frame, and this is where I want my out. So if you look underneath this timeline, you'll see that there are 2 little brackets. This is your in and your out. So if I click the out button, it trims away all that other part of the track and leaves me with just the part that I was focusing on. Now I need to get this into my composition. This is not intuitive. You want to try to drag it and stuff like that like you can in other programs. You just can't here. So there are buttons on the right-hand side down here, which is do a ripple insert or an overlay. And you always almost want to do in overlay edit. It'll just put the track in and not disrupt any of your other layers. If I did a ripple edit, a ripple insert, it's going to cut my other layers in half or push them and move them so that that footage ends up being like the only thing in your timeline. That's not what we want. So I'm going to click overlay edit, and bam, my audio has popped into my timeline. Puts it at the top. I don't know why, but I have this thing about the way I work where I put all my audio at the bottom because generally I don't do much with it. And all my artwork and layers and all the action is just kind of up on top. Maybe that makes sense. Think about it. How do you want to work with this? So now I have an audio layer in my timeline. And this audio layer can be played just like everything else with the space bar. It's funny, I made it 10 seconds even though I was saying that my comp was 5. Here, this is a good little break. What if I want to change my comp to 10 seconds now? Actually, this is kind of important. Composition settings. Says 5 seconds. I want to change that to 10. So I'm going to select those two values, click my 10, and OK. Doesn't even look like anything changed. This is another thing. Adobe, if you're listening, if you do that, let's change the magnification of our timeline, because if you're not paying attention, my magnification just went from zooming all the way out to zooming halfway in. So it kept my what looks like 5 seconds in my timeline. But if I zoom all the way out, we can see that, yep, okay, it added another 5 seconds. However, my layers are only 5 seconds long. So I have to go to the end, select all, and I'm going to use that shortcut option, right bracket, and it just took those out points and extended it to the whole duration of my movie. So, okay, we know that we can play it. I heard it. What else? There's an audio on or off button. Mute it or play it. It's like all you get right there. Do you want to hear it? Do you not want to hear it? Now, if I open and twirl down that little menu underneath here to look and see what kind of attributes I have, there's no transform because you can't rotate or scale up or change opacity or even move audio. It's just there, right? So all I have is audio. Now if I open up audio, it opens two more things underneath that. One of them is my audio levels, and then I have another one called waveforms. If I open up a waveform, now I can see that waveform. There it is, and that's kind of handy for me as a visual person working in a visual space. Of course, it's nice to see things like rhythm hits and whatnot. I can see those spikes. I can see the changes. That's very helpful for me as cues, visual cues, along with audio cues to help make the changes happen. So the waveform is there along with the audio levels. Audio levels is the volume, and it's set at 0 by default. If you know anything about audio, 0 is like normal, average, like native volume for whatever audio file that you're working with. You can go up or you can go down from 0. So you can go positive or you can go negative. It'll only let you go positive to 12. And look what happens to my waveform. It like peaks out, which means we're going to be blowing out all the levels. It's going to sound like garbage. So generally, you just don't need to go beyond 0. Gosh, it's so hard to keep that in there. 0. Sometimes you might have to. I can already see I'm peaking on a few things already. That's just the native way of that audio track. Now, if I go into negatives, you can see how that waveform is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I can go all the way, it'll let me go all the way down to, what will it let me go to? Negative 192. I don't know why, because a negative 48 is basically as quiet as you can get, like mute. So it used to just stop at negative 48. Now it goes further. Maybe there's just some weird ranges that some files have that they want to have access to. So just understand that a negative 48 is silent, 0, normal, up to 12, maximum. I can keyframe my audio levels. So this is good for fade-ins, fade-outs, getting rid of moments of audio, bringing it down a little bit, for certain moments. And that's as easy as keyframing. So I initiated my stopwatch. I've laid down a keyframe. Maybe I'll go -48, like I was saying. Look at it, it's like super quiet. So how long would I want to fade in for? Maybe a second, so somewhere around there. What I'll do is I'll go back to 0, and that lays in another keyframe, and visually you can see that waveform goes, ramps up. Can you hear it? Yeah, it already sort of has its own natural fade in, but this is absolutely a fade in. I know it, I've got my hands on it, I control it, I can see it, and I can still hear it. So, I could even fade out at the end if I wanted to, something rather like fast. So I'll hit another keyframe for 0, and then I'll go to the very end. So this is going to be a 10 frame fade. It's pretty fast. Then I'll go back to my -48. So now I've got a total of 4 keyframes. Fade in, holding at 0, and then a fade out at the end. And that fade out at the end is going to sound something like... So instead of just like stopping, putting the brakes on, it's a little more gentle. I still don't like it, so I would just move that other keyframe back to like that other beat and see what that sounds like. It's better. It's not great. This is like not the best fade out program either. It'll do it. But the slope and any control over what that fade looks like, you just don't have any control over that. That's why those audio programs are generally better for this. Anyways, okay, so there are some things you can do with audio. There is, under Effect, there is an audio section where you can make audio go backwards. You can mess with your bass and treble. So there are few things of control, adding, reverb. There is a parametric EQ. So, ultimately there are some things you could do to that audio. I'm not going to go into it because I don't care for this class. I don't care. I want you to have audio in your work. You make the audio as best as you can somewhere else, but use After Effects for the audio. That's all I care about. I want you to do really good visuals. That's what this class is about. All right, so next we're going to look at animating to audio. All right, thanks.